Hey yo, this is Dash, and today you are joining me in my kitchen, and I have a small brisket. This thing is petite that I need to cut up, weigh, and get out the door. All right, and I'll deliver this in a couple minutes. So I figured what better way to get it done than to bring you guys along. So I'm going to do just that. At this point, I'm going to kind of get myself set up with the cutting board, with the brisket, with everything, and I'll bring you guys along. Get ready. All right, so first things first, I need to get my brisket. A lot of you guys always ask me, how do you get, or what do you do to get your brisket prepared? Basically, I chilled the brisket. So I put the brisket in the oven and I'm just warming it. I have it on to keep warm. It's been on to keep warm for about an hour. Really just want to knock the chill off of it so to make it easier for me to slice. And I'm going to put a wet paper towel under my cutting board so that it doesn't slide around on me. Thank you to those of you who commented on videos of me cutting brisket all those years ago. Put a wet paper towel underneath your cutting board. It'll keep it from sliding around and moving. I've been doing this for years and it definitely helps. All right, next up, I need my knife. I have this is a 12-inch meat slicing knife, straight edge. I did used to use a serrated knife, but I found that I didn't need to. The straight edge works just fine. I have my glove, and let's get the brisket out of the oven. Again, I just had the brisket in the oven on keep warm just to knock the chill off of it to make it easier to slice. This brisket is actually a rather tiny brisket. This thing is petite, if you will. Next thing is my fat separator. If I can find it. This fat separator is one that I got off of Amazon years ago. And I've been using it even with the broken handle. It still works. And I'm gonna get the brisket out of the pan. Now this brisket was smoked on the Lonestar Grillz cabinet pellet cooker, and it sat out on the pellet cooker for I think about 3 hours at 200 and I think I had it set to 240 degrees, and because it's so small, it only took about 3 hours for it to get up to, I think I had it set to alert me at 150 degrees. All right, so let's get this brisket back here. First things first, I always cut the point from the flat. Now this brisket is tiny and there isn't very much point on this brisket. So I'm gonna come in over the top because I can see whoever butchered this brisket, literally butchered this brisket. Come in, slice the two muscles apart. Now the top muscle, I always cook my briskets with the point up and rest my briskets the same exact way with the point up. So I separated the point from the flat. Put the point off to the side for right now. I'm going to take the flat, flip it over, and perpendicular to the grain, we're just going to come in, slice this, and we'll get there's a decent slice for you guys to see there. Having the brisket warm really makes slicing the brisket much easier, but you do not want to slice a brisket that's straight off the smoker. You do need to allow the brisket to rest and those juices and things like that to settle before you slice the brisket, or you will dry the brisket out. In the beginning, no one ever said why you shouldn't slice, or no one said to me why you shouldn't slice the brisket pretty much right out of the smoker. But I found over time that if I sliced a brisket too soon, or if the brisket was too warm, the brisket would be too dry to eat if it was sliced too soon. So I always rest my briskets and let them cool for at least an hour before I slice them up. This brisket was no exception. I finished it late last night. I chilled it, and then this morning, prior to slicing, I warmed it up to make it a little easier for me to slice. This brisket is maybe all of 90 degrees, 100 degrees max. It is not serving temperature. It is just warm to make it easier to slice. And I'm going to twist the cutting board to make me cutting this down a little bit, a little easier. Slice right down this. Now, if I were catering, or this were for an event, I would actually slice this into maybe 3 sections there, like put a slice here and put a slice here, to make it so that these pieces are smaller. The smaller the pieces, the less compelled people are to take a huge portion of the brisket. And I'm just picking up the brisket, putting it on the knife, sliding it into my pan so that I can work with the point now that I'm finished with the flat. Just pick it up, transfer it into the pan. Now, because this is gonna get, I'll say cut up, but because I'm cutting this up for someone and then I'm gonna weigh it out, I'm not worried per se about the presentation. If this order were for a whole brisket, I would have tried to place it into the pan a lot neater than that. This, cut off the edge so we can square this up, and those might be pieces for me a little later. I'm gonna say my knife, but I'm gonna cut these into about inch and a half pieces with the grain. And then we're gonna come, and you can see again with the grain, and then I'm gonna come back and cut these pieces perpendicular to the grain, against the grain. And we're gonna be doing like 1/4 inch slices or so. Take the time. Nice and uniform. Down to the edge. Turn the pan around, make it easier for me to put these into the pan on this side. Do the same thing for the rest of the point. And here's a cross section of the point, so you can see that there. For those of you who say the pellet cooker can't produce a smoke ring, and or you need to smoke something in the pellet cooker for an exuberant amount of time, I'm going to say false. This brisket was cooked in the pellet cooker before I brought it inside and finished it in the oven for, like I said, all of 3 hours. Again, here's a piece of that outside edge so you can see that smoke ring. Pretty fantastic. And when I get to the edge, just because this piece is a little unruly, I turn it on the flat cut side, and I will make my same cuts. And then when I trim it or transfer it into the pan, I will turn it back perpendicular to the way I have it laying on the board, so that the pieces are all uniform. Even though if I were to transfer it just like this, the way that it's sitting into the pan, it would work. And I'll just leave it there just so you can see. At this point, I'm going to get a pan and weigh out the 3 pounds of brisket that I need for my customer. All right, so I have this is a half catering pan. Get out the scale. We set the pan on top of the scale to tare everything, and I'm just gonna weigh it out. Get 1.5 pounds of the flat. So we're looking at 1 pound, 8 ounces for the flat portion. And we're going to get another 1.5 pounds from the point portion. And we're kind of just picking up pieces that are kind of fit into the pan. All right. And here we have a pan, 3 pounds and a little over 3 ounces. Well, 3.03 ounces. Let's see if we can get a picture of this for you guys. And the picture of the pan. Oh yeah. All right. So, last but not least, I'm going to then cover this with foil, wrap it up, take it. This portion here, what I would normally do is I would actually weigh this portion out and I won't say try, but I would sell it. But what I try to do is when I have brisket left over like this, I will vacuum seal some pieces so that my wife and or we can have some brisket on demand. And I will take vacuum sealless brisket, put it in the freezer, and we'll have little 1/2 pound packs of brisket that she can either do, have for breakfast, or we can have for dinner a particular evening, just because it's quick and easy. And since I already cooked the brisket, might as well, right? Last but not least, you guys saw me take the jus from the brisket. What I will do is take the jus from the brisket, and I'm gonna mix up the jus, making sure that there's, seasoning and everything all mixed together. And we're gonna provide a cup of this jus for the customer so that they can have it with their brisket. Cover this up, close the container, brisket jus, and provide that with the customer's order here. last but not least, let's cover that up. I always put the dull side up. The dull side shows less fingerprints. And this is 3 pounds brisket. All right, and I'll deliver this in a couple minutes. Thank you guys so very much, as always, for watching. If you haven't already, please do subscribe. If you like what you saw today, if you learned something, please feel free to leave a comment and or a concern or a question down below. Either way, see you next time. Thanks again.
More butter, baby.